The bit that resonated the most with me was the story about his challenges with preparing for doing a talk at DevCon. In my case, I was told I was doing a workshop. Now, I thought that's fantastic. I've done training before in the past, and, so there was nothing to worry about. When you do an interactive session, such as a workshop, a lot of the time is spent helping people to get connected to the Wi-Fi, and with the people who sometimes go, my screen doesn't look like yours. And you kind of go over there, and you think it's going to be a configuration issue. Turns out the laptop's not on. So this is my first DevCon. Not my first DevCon. I've been to DevCon before, but my first time speaking at DevCon. So I've got some great colleagues. I believe very much in collaboration and collective learning. So I went to them to try and understand how to prepare for one of these workshops. And their advice was, well, don't do it as a workshop, do it as a masterclass. People won't be there with their laptops out, and they won't be expecting to go through a lot of exercises. Okay, fair enough, I'll do it as a masterclass. So I spoke to some others, and they said to me, well, make sure that you have all your exercises ready, because there are people who will want to go through the exercises as you're going through the demonstration. So I prepared all that. I thought, fantastic. Prepared. Only about a week ago, I got a message to say, you've been put on the main stage. What's the problem with that? There's no tables, so no one's going to get any laptops out. So now you're going to find me standing on stage, trying to fill 45 minutes, and we'll see how that goes. So if you're expecting a session on AI or coffee making, this probably isn't the one. So now's your moment to sneak out and find something else. But if building responsive menus in Liferay sounds like your kind of fun, then you're absolutely in the right place, and I'm glad you're here. Navigation is the first touch point for users. And making it responsive, accessible, and consistent across devices is key to a great digital experience. In this session, we will explore how to use the Liferay responsive menu fragments, which are available free on Liferay Marketplace, and learn how to build adaptable menus that work beautifully across devices. Feel free to jot your questions down as we go. I have allocated some time for questions and discussions at the end. So, this is what we're here for. So what I think you should get from this session. By the end of the session, you should be able to integrate and customize the responsive menu fragments in a Liferay site. Ensure the accessibility and the mobile usability. And finally, adapt menus for different layouts and use cases. These are the key skills and insights that I would like you to take away. People ignore design that ignores people. This is a quote from designer Frank Camero. Really captures the essence of what we're talking about in this session. Navigation isn't just a technical feature. It's one of the first experiences a user will have when they land on your site. And if it's clunky, confusing, and doesn't work well on mobile, people won't think twice about moving on. And that's why responsive, accessible design matters so much. It's about putting people at the center, making sure that no matter the screen size, the device, or the user's needs, your menus adapt for them and not the other way around. And that's exactly what we will be talking about in this session. Menus that don't get in the way, but guide people seamlessly to where they need to go. Now that we know the goals, here's how we're going to get there. So we'll shortly get an overview of the fragments, and then we will see how to install them. Then we'll go into a live demonstration where I'll integrate a menu, customize the styles and behaviors, show the test and show how the accessibility and mobility usability works, and adapt the menus for layouts and different use cases. And we'll wrap up with some key takeaways, learning outcomes. We'll have the Q&A that I promised, and then there'll be some resources that you can use to explore after the session. Okay, so the responsive menu fragments are made up of 4 fragments, and they're here to help you build consistent, configurable menus in Liferay. The fragments are used to build menus with various features built in, such as stickiness, mobile layout, image logo management, and scroll to top. The set consists of 2 main fragments, and you pick whichever you need based on the type of menu you're building, whether it's a horizontal or vertical menu. And there are 2 further helpers, which basically work with the main fragment to let it understand what's in your drop zones and how you want it to behave. So, if you've used the Liferay Marketplace before, these steps will be fairly familiar. You simply log in to your account, you search for the app, in this case, the responsive menu fragments, you download and you install them. In the case of fragments, you'd navigate to the fragment feature within the site, the target site that you want to install it to, and use the menu option to do the import. Of course, if your solution requires multiple fragment sets, then you simply go through the same steps for each one. Now, hang on a minute. We're talking about usability and accessibility in this talk, and absolutely. And that's why we strive to improve not only the experience of your customers, but also the experience that you have while you're building out your solutions. And in this video, which isn't playing, so I guess I need to press something else. That's playing. So in this video, you will see how seamless the process is in the 2025 Q3 release. So you don't really have to leave your Liferay instance at all. So here you still see we're creating an account, we're setting up the Liferay instance to connect to the marketplace, but you only need to do this once. And this list that we're going to see in a moment is context aware. So if, for example, you need to add a payment method to your online shop, then you use the marketplace icon in the commerce section, and it will bring up a list of the available payment providers within the solution. So you can see there we're installing it now, and there they are. We're just going to add it to the master page, and then we'll wait for that. Okay. So now it's time to see how these can be used. Okay. So what we're going to see is how to build out a menu using the fragments, and as I said, to see how you can adapt for things. Okay, we'll switch over to my screen. Got to log in. Okay. So this is the vanilla Liferay instance, as you can see. You've probably all seen it before, this site. Now, in this particular instance, I've already installed the fragments, so they're already here. We've also installed a few others in there to sort of help some of the things we're going to show. So if I go to the original site, and then we go and create our first master page. Okay. So I'll talk about some of the configuration options as well as we go in here. So I just want to mention something as well. So one of the things that I want to point out on this, and maybe I'll do it through actually just trying to make a mistake myself. So at the bottom here, we have this zone configuration. So at the moment, I've got menu only, so I'm only seeing the menu zone. So I'm going to click both. Oh, but nothing's happened. And the reason nothing's happened is because I've got the inline style selected at the moment. And what that means is it's basically gives you the ability to bring this fragment into a grid or other containers within your site, and you can simply use the menu and benefit from the mobile view and everything else that's part of that. Okay. Now, again, in the Q3 release of this year, we have the ability to make the UI on the right there, the configuration for the fragment, a bit more intelligent. So you can do things like hide some of these fields here if they don't make sense based on the selection of the fields. Okay? And that's really quite useful because as you can see here, if you came to this afresh, the default is in line with a menu only, and you would then go and try and change your zone, and nothing happens. Okay? And obviously, with the Q3 release, you wouldn't get that, so you wouldn't even see this option until a valid option had been selected in the menu style, and I think that's quite a useful thing. So we can see here the 3 different types of menu that's supported by this particular fragment. So we've got the 2 fragments here. We've got the responsive menu, and we've got the responsive side menu. Now, originally, sort of borrow from Lord of the Rings, I wanted to create a fragment to rule them all, okay? But the problem was it was becoming far too complex in terms of the logic that needed to be in there with the free marker, the CSS, the JavaScript, etc. So I split it out just for simplicity, and that's why there are 2. And actually, there is some difference in terms of how you would build out the master page in order to accommodate the side menu as well. So we may see that a bit later. So let's go and select something like the top. And now I can select any of these options, and we can see that suddenly I now have the additional zones either side. Okay? So what I'm going to do now, I've also got the fact that I'm saying that in terms of the grow, the flex on this, I'm giving that to the menu. You can, of course, select any of the zones that you have. So if you want one of the other zones to actually take that extra growth, then you can do that as well. Okay. So in terms of what I would drop into these, okay, then I'm going to just bring in a menu display. So this is a standard menu display that's out of the box with Liferay, and just drop that into there. Okay. Now, some of the things that I can do on the right-hand side, which we haven't looked at, are things like configure the different breakpoints. I can change and override the menu colors. So if you want to change those colors based on your starbook, your theme, you can do that as well, and we'll see that in a moment. Okay, but if I want to sort of build this out a little bit more, okay, then I've got my other fragments down here. So let's say I want to build I want to bring the logo zone over here. Now, as I said, these are helper fragments. So what does that mean? Well, we'll see that when we go to the mobile view, how that works with that particular zone. Just at the moment, just know that that's just basically a placeholder so that the main fragment understands what the content is. Okay? So I'm going to bring in some other helper fragments that I've got. This is the site logo. Now, this is a slightly modified version in the fact that it's actually creating CSS variables with its width and height, which again allow the parent fragment to understand how to manipulate that size and everything else, okay? We can do all the other things that we'd expect, like being able to show the menu, we can change the size of it, etc. I'm just going to leave it as it is at the moment, okay? Now what I'm going to do on the other side is bring in a zone layout, okay? Now, what this is for, if we look at the side here, is it gives me the ability to, a bit like we can do with containers, change the way that container works. So make it a flex row, a flex column, just make it block, etc. So I'm going to make it, I'm going to leave it a block at the moment, just so we can sort of see the difference. And then I'm going to start bringing in other fragments. So again, I've got some fragments that help us. So we've got the user menu there. And I'm also going to bring in, say, the language widget as well. This is the selector for language. Put that in there. Hopefully that's in the right place. I'm just going to check. Yeah, so that's in the drop zone. Worth checking this because sometimes you can just go off a little bit and it'll end up in a different place. So worth just checking that. But what you can do then, of course, is obviously then say, well, I want this as a row, okay? And in this particular case, I'm saying that I'm allowing the menu to override that position. And we'll see why that's important in a minute, okay? So you can, of course, obviously make as a default. The reason I'm not doing that is because it doesn't really affect content pages. That's for widget pages. You're still going to have to choose the master page that you want to use for your page. So I'm just going to go into here now and change the master page to the one that I've created. Obviously we have, because it's not published, we've got this sort of mix between the two. So I'm just going to publish that. But what I'll do beforehand, actually, is because I don't have a lot of content in this site, obviously, I'm going to duplicate this. So we can sort of see what the page would look like with lots of different content in there, okay? I'm going to publish that, okay? And then we have the fragment. Now, I've got some hotkeys here. So that's sort of like your tablet view, okay? And as I sort of get smaller, now we can see that we're not hamburger menu that we'd expect to see when we kind of get to this sort of level of screen size. And when I expand that open, then we can see that we have not only the menu in here and the logo up in the right here, we've also changed the layout of the icons that we had on the main menu. So if I'd have told the fragment I didn't want it to override the position, then obviously those particular fragments would be side by side in a single row. So that's really down to your preference and how you want the menu to behave. But the point is it's configurable and you can pretty much meet any layout that you need. Okay. So we've obviously got a top menu here. So at the bottom here, I've got my scroll to top, which I've got for free, so I can click that. And I can decide whether that's on or off. There are other features in there, which I can't necessarily show you today with great confidence, because one of the things that I did do for this was, like everybody else, AI is the greatest thing. And I thought, well, okay, what I'm going to do is I've built all these fragments out that all work perfectly, and I'm going to ask the AI to have a look at it and tell me anything that it can improve. Now, admittedly, when it finished, the accessibility score went to 100. Okay, so I thought that's fantastic. But then I noticed that there was a few little niggles in there, which I'd put in by purpose because I understand how Liferay works. I understand how the fragments drop in, how the page builder works. And without those in place, then it didn't quite work. So, as I said, some of these might not work on here. Of course, if you're doing the design, I've tried to make it as easy as possible. So, for example, just the sort of side things. I can take off the display headers and stuff. The reason I've got them there is because sometimes when you're sort of clicking around here and you want to be able to change the configuration, having to go through here, find the right position within the tree can sort of be a little time consuming. So, having that extra ability to sort of click the fragment, I think is quite useful. But yes, going down here, we've got sort of different features which are intended to increase the accessibility of this menu. So things like the scroll lock. So that means that when the menu's been displayed in the mobile view, the main content doesn't move, okay? So it locks it in place so that it doesn't start trying to take over the focus and everything, okay? We've also got the close on internal navigation. So what that means is before I click a link for a different page and it navigates away, it will take a few seconds for that menu to close. Okay, so you actually see the animation, that sort of closing before it navigates away. Okay. Now, some of the other things in here we didn't look at. Down here, we have how we want things like the logo to adapt within that mobile view as well, right? So we can say that we don't want the logo to change. We want it to remain the dimensions that we have specified. So then we enlarge the hamburger menu to align with that, so we don't get some odd behavior in terms of alignment, etc. But we can also choose to reduce that as well. So if we want to keep the hamburger its normal size, then we can change that logo to meet that as well. So there's all sorts of different things there. The ability to always display the logo. So if we do that now, let's change both of those and publish that. Go back to the home page. Go back to here. So now you can see that the logo is in the top right, and it will remain there, okay? Because I've said I want it to display all the time, okay? And then obviously I can expand that, and I've got my menu, okay? So we can see that it kind of went back up there before it moved away, okay? So what else do I want to show you? So let's think about the different sort of layouts that we want to achieve. So we've said we've got the side view, and that. So we've got different menu for that. We've also got the inline menu, as I said, is a special case. So let's have a look at some of those. I've got some sites in here that I've created to show that really. So I've also created some additional fragments just to kind of give us a little bit different content to look at rather than the normal sort of content that comes out when you first load up Liferay. And I can sort of, similar here, you can see I've got a larger menu here. And again, in this particular case, you can see that I've not allowed the menu to change the sort of flex position of my content. So I've got the user menu and the language selector side by side. It also supports right to left as well. So if I do that, then, okay, it's not worked this time. That's, again, something I'll probably have to look at, but maybe it'll work in the other one. But as you can see, it's it works in terms of, your side menu, going back and sort of seeing the same sort of mobile view in regards to that as well, okay? So if I go to our inline menu, so the reason the inline is quite important is because, for example, you might have a gradient background, okay? And therefore you want it to be transparent. You want to be able to sort of have the menu display on the top of that gradient. Again, we can sort of see the different things. And I've done this with a grid in terms of positioning that. And if I go back down to sort of like this level, obviously, it doesn't control the content now because it's inline. It doesn't have the knowledge of the logo and stuff. So that's entirely up to you in terms of positioning that. Obviously, you can do that through the breakpoints in the page builder as well. And obviously, if I scroll down, you can sort of see the menu appearing. And of course, you can change all of the colors in there. You can change the color of the background of the menu, the hamburger. You can give it borders, etc. So there's quite a bit of configuration there in terms of what you can achieve. Okay. So let's just have a look. Let's just give it a go with the accessibility scores. I said this is desktop at the moment. I don't imagine it's going to be particularly great at the moment with the changes that have been brought in from playing with the AI. Let's have a look, see what comes back. So this is sort of a desktop view at the moment, so it's obviously got quite a bit to render. Slower than normal. Okay, something's wrong with that. Let's try a different one. It's probably more likely to be the way that I've actually built out the menu here that's causing the problem. Let's go into the one we built here and then do another analysis. It's a bit faster this time. Okay, so we've got 100% accessibility. Performance needs a bit of tuning, but obviously, the 100% accessibility is a good thing. We can obviously, as you'd expect, be able to sort of select the menu, sort of navigate through those, etc. So we've got that ability. We've got all of the screen reader tags behind there as well, so that so screen readers can pick up that content as well. And everything. And then let's just see, what else can I show you? Well, okay, let's leave it at that then, I guess. Okay, can we switch back to the slides then? Is there anything I need to do over this side to switch back? Okay. So again, the key takeaways in this are really that, you should have an idea of how to use those fragments now, be able to customize them, know how to ensure the accessibility and the mobile usability of those menus, and then you've seen how they can be adapted for different layouts and use cases. So before we go on to the questions and discussion, I want to come back to this quote: "People ignore design that ignores people." And what you've seen today is responsive menus, accessibility and usability, and it's all about keeping people at the center of design. If your navigation ignores users' needs, the design, then they will ignore your design and they'll go elsewhere. If you adapt, then they will work on any context, then you'll gain their trust and their attention. Okay, so I'd love to open it up to you now in terms of any questions you may have or any discussion points you might have. Hello. Hi. Yeah, I can hear you. I think there's a mic coming around as well. You're getting a microphone, yeah, that'd be good.
Hey, Peter.
Hi.
So I believe you said that you'd brought in the responsive fragments into AI to make them better and maybe improve accessibility, SEO, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
So can you talk more about which tools you use to do that? And once you'd done that, did the fragments get packaged together correctly afterwards? And how was that? What sort of time did you take to do that? That sort of thing.
Yeah, so when I was doing this, I didn't really have access to Gemini, which obviously we do now. So I was using, other AI tools. And I found, in my personal experience, as I said, the frustration was kind of trying to keep the AI to understand what it is you're trying to achieve and why certain things are the way they are. It's very easy for it to go through the CSS in isolation and say, well, you don't have anything like a control menu in HTML. And that's because it's looking at fragment and isolation. If it looked at it within the Liferay environment, obviously it would find that, and it would know the reason you're using that. So it's really about sort of making sure that you're giving enough context to the AI so that it knows the reasons behind your design, and for it to know that those are important aspects of what you're doing. As I said, I've got to go back to it and work on it, see what I can do in terms of getting some of the other features that have been sort of taken out based on those changes, and see if there's a sort of happy medium to get between the two. So that's what I have at the moment. Anybody else? Questions?
And just so you know, how often do you expect that you'll be updating these fragments and maintaining them? Do you think you'll be doing a lot of different releases?
Well, obviously, yes. I mean, off the back of today, there's obviously some things that I need to tweak. As I said, a lot of this was actually working before I got AI to have a look at it. So I'll have to kind of take some of that out and work out, how to sort of allow it to sort of bring in its input, but at the same time keep the context of what I've done, so that we can keep that together. But yes, they're all available on the marketplace. I'm in one version 2 now, so I am sort of actively trying to make them better, yeah.
And what else have you got up your sleeve coming soon from the Peter Richards factory?
Nothing that's relevant to this particular talk, so I'll leave it at that. Okay, so I think we've got a few minutes left, so unless there's any more questions, I will move on. Okay, so you've got the marketplace link there. You can go and have a look and download them and play around with those fragments. I've also created a workbook with some exercises which you can use to sort of understand more about some of the configuration options in there. And of course, you can see the source code as well. Now, as I said, I believe in collaboration and collective learning, and I'm sure that there are improvements that can be made to these fragments, and there's possibly bugs as well. So by all means, report those via GitHub issues as well. Okay. And I'll leave you with that. But that's it. Thank you.